Do you ever wonder if there are animals that eat only blood? Maybe you've heard stories about vampires who only come out at night to hunt for blood. Well, today we're going to talk about a real-life vampire that hunts for blood at night. Let's start. In our world today, there are 3 species of bats that only eat blood. They're known as vampire bats. Vampire bats don't just drink the blood of humans. They prefer to feed on large mammals such as cows, pigs, and horses while they're sleeping. And guess what? They only go after the biggest animals because they need a lot of blood to stay alive. These bats don't play around when it comes to finding food. Even though they're tiny creatures, they have some amazing tricks up their sleeves that will blow your mind. First things first, these bats don't attack their prey head-on, no sir. They wait until their target is fast asleep, and then they sneak closer, flying silently. Yes, that's right. These bats can fly completely silently. This way their prey doesn't hear them coming until it's too late. Sometimes these bats even walk and hop on the ground to get closer to their prey. But you might be wondering, how do they manage to do all this without making a single sound? Well, these bats have some special features that help them be the ultimate silent hunters. One of their coolest tricks is using a special heat sensor in their nose. With this sensor, they can find blood vessels close to the skin of their prey, which are the easiest places to drink blood. The best part is that they can do this even in complete darkness. Now, you might be wondering, why don't the animals they're hunting just kick them away? Well, these bats are experts at picking the perfect spot to feed. They usually choose spots on the leg, neck, or ear where the animals won't be bothered. Once they have their spot, they get ready to strike. And let me tell you, their strikes are precise and efficient. These bats use their razor-sharp incisors to make a small cut in the skin, just enough to get to the blood vessels underneath. And here's where things get really interesting. These bats don't suck the blood out of the wound. Instead, they use their tongues to lick the blood. Yes, you heard that right, lick. It's like they're using a straw to slurp up the blood. But wait, there's more. These bats' saliva contains a special substance that helps them slurp blood without waking up their sleeping prey. And it gets even crazier. Their saliva also has a special ingredient that prevents the blood from clotting. So once these bats start drinking blood, they can keep drinking until they're full without worrying about the wound closing up. Isn't that crazy? So now you know how these tiny creatures hunt for blood. But there's still one question that might be on your mind. How do these bats find their prey in the first place? Well, these bats rely on their keen sense of smell to find animals with warm blood. And let me tell you, their noses are like blood-powered compasses. They can detect even the smallest amount of blood from miles away and navigate towards it with ease. Once they find a potential source of blood, they land nearby and wait. And when the perfect moment arises, they strike and drink their fill. But it's not always smooth sailing for these little vampires. Sometimes their prey wakes up in the middle of the night and gives them a bloody nose. And let me tell you, getting hit by an animal's paw is not fun, especially when you're a tiny bat. That's why these bats have evolved to be incredibly agile and quick. They can dodge even the fastest of attacks and escape unscathed. And if that's not impressive enough, wait till I tell you this. Vampire bats aren't just nocturnal hunters. They're also social creatures. Yes, you heard that right. They live in groups and hang out with each other during the day. But you might be wondering, how do they handle sharing food? Well, turns out these bats are pretty generous when it comes to sharing the blood they slurp. They regurgitate some of their blood for the less fortunate members of their group, which makes them the ultimate vampire BFFs. But don't be fooled by their adorable behavior, because these bats are still ruthless hunters. If there's one thing these bats love more than blood, it's protecting their food source. If a jaguar or any other predator dares to come near their sleeping prey, these bats will swarm the intruder and drive it away. They might be small, but these bats are fierce and protective of what's theirs. Now, you might be wondering, why haven't these bats evolved to kill and eat only human blood? Well, there are a few theories out there. Some experts believe that these bats simply have evolved to target humans because we have been around for long enough for them to adapt. Others believe that our blood might not be sweet enough for these tiny vampires. But whatever the reason, we're pretty lucky that these bats haven't chosen us as their primary food source. Imagine having to worry about tiny bats flying into your bedroom at night to suck your blood. Not exactly a pleasant thought. But these bats aren't just fascinating creatures of the night. They also have a potential benefit for us humans. Turns out their saliva contains a powerful anticoagulant called draculin. And guess what? Scientists are developing it into a drug that could help prevent blood clots in stroke patients. That's right, these little creatures could save countless lives. Imagine a world where a tiny bat could help save millions of people from strokes. It's mind-blowing. So next time you hear a bat squeaking outside your window, remember that it could be a tiny vampire looking for a midnight snack. And who knows, it might just be trying to save your life. But wait, there's more. There's another surprising twist to these blood-sucking wonders. You see, despite their scary reputation, vampire bats are surprisingly adorable. Yes, you heard that right. They're tiny, furry balls of cuteness that can fit in the palm of your hand. And get this, they're social creatures who love to hang out with their bat buddies. Talk about being the cutest little vampires around, but don't let their looks fool you. These bats are still ruthless hunters. When it comes to finding the perfect blood meal, they're like tiny ninjas that strike silently and swiftly. Plus, they're surprisingly generous creatures. They share their hard-earned blood with the less fortunate members of their colony. Talk about being the Robin Hood of the bat world. And let's not forget about their incredible adaptations. These bats have evolved to survive on a diet of blood alone. Their saliva contains special compounds that help them slurp blood without waking up their sleeping prey, and they can regurgitate some of their blood for their fellow bats. Talk about being a true survivor. Despite their scary reputation, these bats are fascinating creatures that play an important role in our ecosystem. They're also surprisingly adorable and generous, which makes them even more intriguing. So the next time you hear a bat squeaking in the night, remember that it might just be a tiny vampire looking for a midnight snack, and who knows, maybe it'll save your life one day. But we're not done just yet. There's still one more surprising fact about these bats that you need to hear. Ready for it? Drumroll, please. Despite being nocturnal hunters, these bats are surprisingly active during the day. Yes, you heard that right. They're not just creatures of the night. They're little balls of energy who love to hang upside down and socialize during the day. But don't worry, they don't turn into sparkly vampires when the sun goes down. These bats are still the same adorable blood-sucking wonders that we love to hate. And if you thought their appetite for blood was impressive, wait until you hear this. These bats can consume up to half of their body weight in blood during a single feeding frenzy. That's right, these tiny creatures have a voracious appetite for blood. But don't worry, they're not looking to satisfy their thirst with your blood. These bats usually target livestock such as cows, pigs, and horses. But that doesn't mean they won't go after humans if given the chance. That's right. These bats are not picky eaters when it comes to blood. But despite their scary habits, these bats are surprisingly gentle creatures. They don't just go around biting humans and animals left and right. They only feed on blood when they absolutely need it. And when they do, they make a small incision in the skin to collect the blood. They're not trying to drain their victims of blood. They just want a little bit to satisfy their hunger. And let's not forget about their unique hunting style. These bats don't just dive straight into their prey to drink their blood. They use their special heat sensor in their nose to find blood vessels close to the skin. Then they make a small cut and start licking the blood. Yes, you heard that right. These bats don't suck the blood, they lick it. It's like they're using their tongues as straws. But don't be fooled by their gentle hunting style. These bats are still dangerous creatures. Their saliva contains a powerful anticoagulant that can keep blood from clotting. That means they can drink blood without worrying about the wound closing up. Plus, their bites might be small, but it's definitely painful. These bats are not afraid to bite if they feel threatened. So don't be fooled by their adorable looks. These bats are still wild animals that should be respected, not just blood-sucking creatures of the night. They're fascinating creatures that play an important role in our ecosystem. Plus, they're surprisingly gentle, graceful, and even adorable. Who would have thought a vampire could be so charming?